Are you dependent or independent? Most people think being independent is the goal, being self-reliant, not needing anyone. But this is only half the journey. Real maturity is in interdependence. When you're independent, and then you work with others to create something that wasn't possible alone. This is what this book teaches. The first 3 habits make you master of yourself. Be proactive. Take responsibility for your life. Begin with the end in mind. Clarify your vision. Put first things first. Set priorities and execute. These 3 habits give you private victory. Victory over yourself. Then the next 3 habits teach you to work effectively with others. Think win-win. Think about mutual benefit. Seek first to understand. Listen first, then speak.
Synergize. Create magic together. These 3 habits give you public victory. Victory in relationships. And the 7th habit, sharpen the saw, keeps you continuously improving. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Today, I'm going to tell you the complete story of these 7 habits. A story that will change your thinking, change your actions, and ultimately change your life. Welcome to Story Reads, and I'm your friend who brought you one of the world's best-selling self-help books, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This book has sold over 40 million copies, translated into more than 40 languages, and changed millions of lives. Why? Because this book doesn't just teach techniques, it teaches character development. It teaches principles, timeless principles that never become outdated. Today, I'm going to tell you about these 7 habits in detail and also tell you how you can apply them in your life. Let me start with a very important concept: paradigm shift. Paradigm means the way you see the world, your perspective, your lens. And when this lens changes, everything changes. An example is given in the book. A man is sitting in the subway on Sunday morning. The atmosphere is peaceful. Everyone's reading their books, lost in their thoughts. Then a man comes with his children, and those kids are making a lot of noise, running, screaming, and that man is just sitting quietly, doing nothing. The first man gets irritated. He thinks, what an irresponsible parent. Can't control his children. Then he tells that man, can you please manage your children? And that man replies, yes, you're right, I should. Actually, we just came from the hospital. Their mother passed away an hour ago, and I don't know how to handle this. And the kids probably don't know how to react either. And just like that, in 1 second, the entire paradigm shifted. Now the first man doesn't feel anger. He feels compassion, understanding. This is the power of paradigm shift. When your way of seeing changes, your way of being also changes. And this is the foundation of this book. This book shifts your paradigms, shows you that real effectiveness doesn't come from outside, it comes from inside. The inside-out approach. Now let me tell you about the first habit. Habit number 1, be proactive. This is the most fundamental habit, the most important habit, because it's the foundation of all other habits. What does being proactive mean? It means you take responsibility for your life. You don't become a victim. You don't blame circumstances, people, luck. You understand that your choices create your life, not your conditions. This is a very powerful realization because when you become proactive, you feel empowered. You feel in control. But when you're reactive, you feel helpless, powerless. Proactive people and reactive people have different language too. Reactive people say, I can't do anything. I have no options. They make me so angry. I have to do it. But proactive people say, I can find different options. I can try a different approach. I can control my response. I will choose. See the difference? Reactive people are making themselves victims. Proactive people are recognizing their power, the power to choose. And this is freedom, real freedom, not external freedom, inner freedom. No matter what the circumstances, you can choose your response. You can choose your attitude. Now comes a very important concept: circle of concern and circle of influence. Circle of concern has all the things you're concerned about, worried about: weather, economy, politics, others' opinions, many things. But how many of these things can you actually control? Very few. And those limited things are in your circle of influence, where you can actually do something, change something. Now, what do reactive people do? They put all their energy in circle of concern, on things they can't control. And what happens? Their circle of influence shrinks, gets smaller, because they're wasting their power on things that aren't in their hands. But what do proactive people do? They put their energy in circle of influence, on things they can actually change. And the interesting thing is, when you consistently focus on your circle of influence, it starts expanding, growing, because you're showing results, creating impact, and people notice, start trusting you, and you get more opportunities, more influence. So this is a virtuous cycle. The more you focus on your circle of influence, the more it grows. And this is the magic of being proactive. Now let me tell you one more important thing: responsibility, meaning the ability to choose your response. This word itself is very powerful. Responsibility. Responsibility. Things happen to all of us. Some good, some bad, some expected, some unexpected. But we always have this power to choose how we respond. And this determines our growth, our happiness, our success. Two people can have the same thing happen to them, but their responses can be different. And therefore, their results will also be different. Now comes the second habit. Habit number 2, begin with the end in mind. This is also a very profound habit. It means you should have a clear vision of where you want to go, what you want to become, what your life's purpose is. Because if you don't know where you're going, you can end up anywhere. And then one day you'll realize, this wasn't what I wanted. A powerful exercise is given in the book. Imagine your funeral. After you're gone, what will people say about you? What will your family say? Your friends, your colleagues, the community? And most important, what do you want them to say? This exercise gives you clarity, perspective about what's really important, what matters. And then you can design your life according to that vision. Make your decisions, set your priorities. Many people are living without vision, just day to day, doing whatever comes up, but no clear direction, no purpose. And then years pass, and they're in the same place, frustrated, unfulfilled, because they never thought about what they actually want. Now comes another important concept: personal mission statement. Your life's constitution, your personal charter. That defines who you are, what you value, and how you want to live. This is a written statement that reflects your core values, your principles, and your goals. And this becomes your guiding force. Whenever you're confused, whenever you have to make tough decisions, you can look at your mission statement and clarity will come. Creating a mission statement isn't easy. It takes time, deep thinking, self-reflection.
But this investment is very valuable because it will guide you for a lifetime. In your mission statement, you can think about your different roles. You're a parent, a spouse, a professional, a friend, a community member. What are your values in each role? What are your goals? How do you want to contribute? When you clarify all this and write it down, a lot of clarity comes into your life, a lot of focus.
Now comes the third habit. Habit number 3, put first things first. This habit is about execution, implementation, because having vision is good, but if you don't execute that vision, nothing will happen. This habit teaches you how to focus your time, your energy, your resources on the most important things, not the most urgent things. And here's a very important distinction: urgent versus important. The time management matrix is explained in the book. There are 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1 has things that are both urgent and important. Crises, deadlines, emergencies, these things have to be done, no option. Quadrant 2 has important but not urgent things. Planning, prevention, relationship building, learning, personal development. These things are very important, but not urgent, so people keep postponing them. Quadrant 3 has urgent but not important things. Interruptions, some phone calls, some meetings, some emails. These seem urgent, but actually aren't important. And Quadrant 4 has neither urgent nor important, just time waste. Watching TV, mindless scrolling, busy work. Now, where do most people spend their time? Quadrants 1 and 3, chasing urgency. And sometimes Quadrant 4, to rest because they're exhausted. But what do effective people do? They spend maximum time in Quadrant 2 because they know real growth happens here. Real results come here. When you plan, you can avoid crises. When you do prevention, you can avoid problems. When you invest in relationships, you build trust. Collaboration improves. When you invest in learning, your skills grow. Opportunities grow. But doing Quadrant 2 things is difficult because there's no external pressure, no deadline, nobody's pushing you. You have to discipline yourself, motivate yourself. And this is where proactivity comes in. You have to decide yourself that I'll prioritize Quadrant 2, even if urgent things are waiting, because long term, this is what will pay off. Now comes a very practical tool: weekly planning. At the beginning of every week, you sit down and plan. Look at your roles. What's important this week in each role? What are the goals? And then make your schedule according to those goals. This is much better than daily planning because weekly perspective gives you balance, flexibility. You can see how you can address all roles throughout the week, how you can balance work and personal life, and most important, how you can carve out time for Quadrant 2 activities. In weekly planning, you first schedule your big rocks. Big rocks meaning the most important things, Quadrant 2 activities. If you first schedule small pebbles, urgent but unimportant things, then there won't be room for big rocks. But if you put big rocks first, then pebbles will fit between them. This is a powerful metaphor and very practical too. When you block your most important activities at the beginning of your week, they happen. Otherwise, they keep getting postponed. Now let me tell you about delegation, which is also an important part of Quadrant 2. Delegation means giving work to others. And there are 2 types: gopher delegation and stewardship delegation. In gopher delegation, you just give instructions. Do this, do that, like this, step by step. This is micromanaging, and this takes a lot of your time, and the other person doesn't grow. But in stewardship delegation, you focus on results, not methods. You clarify what's needed, what the desired results are, what the guidelines are, what resources are available, how accountability will work, and then you give them freedom to achieve it their way.
Stewardship delegation takes more time initially, in setup, but long-term it's very effective because people feel ownership. They grow, their capability increases, and your time gets freed up for more important things. This is win-win. But this requires trust, patience, and willingness to let go of control. Many managers can't do this because they think doing it themselves is faster. But this is short-term thinking. Long-term, stewardship delegation is sustainable, scalable. So these were the first 3 habits. Be proactive, begin with the end in mind, put first things first. And these 3 together give you private victory, independence, self-mastery. When you're proactive, you take responsibility for your life. When you have clear vision, you know where to go. And when you put first things first, you actually get there. This is the foundation. This is the base on which everything else builds. Because if you can't manage yourself, you can't work effectively with others. If you don't have clarity in your own life, integrity, discipline, then success won't come in relationships either.
Now come the next 3 habits, which are about public victory, about relationships, about working effectively with others. Because when you've achieved victory over yourself, when you've become independent, then the real challenge begins, of interdependence. Most people don't understand this. They think being independent is the ultimate goal. But actually, the most effective people are those who are interdependent, who can collaborate with others, create synergy, and achieve something that wasn't possible alone. So now let me tell you about the 4th, 5th, and 6th habits that will transform your relationships. Habit number 4, think win-win. This is a mindset, a paradigm that says life isn't competition. Life is cooperation, and in every interaction, both can win. This is the opposite of scarcity mentality. Scarcity mentality says resources are limited. If you get it, then I won't. If you win, then I lose. But abundance mentality says there's enough for everyone. We can both win. We can create even more together. And this is the foundation of win-win thinking. Now, the book explains 6 paradigms of human interaction. Win-win, win-lose, lose-win, lose-lose, win, and win-win or no deal. Let me explain each one to you. Win-lose is the most common paradigm, especially in competitive environments. I have to win, you have to lose. This is fine in sports, in games, but in relationships, in business, in family, this is destructive. Because when one person wins, the other loses, and resentment builds. Trust breaks. Long-term relationship gets damaged. Lose-win is the other extreme, where people suppress their needs, their feelings, to keep others happy, to maintain peace. These people say, it's okay, whatever you want, I'm fine. But inside, they're not fine. And this isn't sustainable either. Because after a while, frustration builds, resentment builds, and then there's an explosion, or the person completely withdraws. Lose-lose happens when 2 win-lose people meet. Both are stubborn, both want their way, and the result is nobody wins. Both lose. Relationship gets damaged, results aren't achieved. This is the worst scenario. Win paradigm is where you only think about your win. You don't care what happens to the other person. This is also a selfish approach and doesn't work long term. And then comes win-win, where both parties' needs are fulfilled, both are satisfied, both feel it's fair. This is mutual benefit, and this is sustainable. This builds long-term relationships. But win-win isn't always possible. Sometimes, despite best efforts, both parties can't agree. So then comes win-win or no deal. Meaning, if we can't find a win-win solution, it's better we don't make a deal at all. Maintain the relationship, but skip this particular transaction. This shows maturity, integrity. Win-win thinking requires 3 things: character, relationships, and agreements. First, character. You need integrity inside, maturity, and abundance mentality. Integrity means you live according to your values. You're authentic. Maturity means you can express your feelings, but also consider others' feelings. Balance of courage and consideration. And abundance mentality means you believe there's enough for everyone. Second thing is relationships. Win-win isn't just a technique. It's based on relationships. If there's no trust in the relationship, win-win isn't possible. That's why the book gives a very important concept: emotional bank account. This is a metaphor. Every relationship has an emotional bank account. When you show kindness, keep promises, clarify expectations, you make deposits in this account. And when you're unkind, break promises, show disrespect, withdrawals happen. And if your balance is high, the relationship is strong. There's trust, and occasional mistakes get forgiven. But if the balance is low or negative, even small things become big issues. How do you make deposits in the emotional bank account? The book explains 6 ways. First is understanding the individual. Understand each person. What are their needs? What are their values? What's important to them? Because what's a deposit for one person might not be for another. Second is attending to the little things, small things, courtesy, kindness, appreciation. These matter a lot. Third is keeping commitments. Do what you say. Keep promises. This is the biggest deposit, and breaking them is the biggest withdrawal. Fourth is clarifying expectations. Clarify expectations so there are no misunderstandings, no disappointments. Fifth is showing personal integrity. Show your integrity. Be loyal. Don't talk behind someone's back. And sixth is apologizing sincerely. When you make a mistake, genuinely apologize. Put ego aside. This is a huge deposit. Do these 6 things regularly, consistently, and trust will build in all your relationships. A strong foundation will form, and then win-win naturally becomes possible. Now comes the 5th habit. Habit number 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. This is probably the most difficult habit because we all want to be heard first, to be understood first. But the book says, first you listen. First you understand. And this isn't just courtesy. This is strategy. Because when you genuinely understand someone, you can make an accurate diagnosis, give the right solution, and most important, you create trust and openness. And then, when you present your point, they're ready to listen. But what do most people do? They don't listen. They just wait for their turn. Or they pretend to listen, but actually, they're preparing their reply, or thinking of their story, or judging. This is autobiographical listening, where you interpret everything through your frame of reference, your experiences, your values, and you assume the other person is also thinking the same. But this is wrong. Every person has their own unique perspective, their own context. Empathic listening is very different. In this, you have intent to genuinely understand. You enter the other person's frame of reference. You see through their eyes, feel their feelings, understand their perspective. And this is very powerful because when someone feels they've been truly understood, they get psychological air. They open up, become vulnerable, and real communication happens. In empathic listening, you don't just hear words, you hear feelings, meaning. You observe body language, notice tone, and then you reflect back in your own words to confirm you understood correctly. There are 4 levels of listening. First is ignoring. You're not listening at all. Second is pretending. You're showing you're listening, saying, yeah, but actually not paying attention. Third is selective listening. You're only hearing what interests you or what supports your point. And fourth is attentive listening. You're listening carefully, focusing on words. This is better, but you're still listening from your frame of reference. And the 5th level is empathic listening, where you have intent to understand the other person from their perspective. This is the highest level, and this enables real communication. Now, when you first understood, genuinely, then comes the second part, to be understood, presenting your point. And here also there's a skill that very few people have. That's presenting your ideas clearly, effectively, but keeping the other person's frame of reference in mind. If you first understood them, you know what their priorities are, what their concerns are, what their values are. And then you can present your ideas in that context, which is relevant for them, meaningful for them. Here comes a concept: ethos, pathos, logos. This is from Greek philosophy, but very practical. Ethos means your credibility, your character, your integrity. If people don't trust you, they won't listen to you, no matter how good your ideas are. Pathos means emotional connection. People don't decide logically, they decide emotionally. So you have to address their feelings, their concerns. And logos means logic. Your arguments, your facts, your reasoning. You need balance of all 3 for effective communication. And most important, all this should be authentic, not manipulative. If you genuinely want the other person's good, want win-win, this will come naturally. But if you just want to get your way, people will sense it and they'll resist. So intent is very important. Pure intent, genuine care, and then skills amplify it. Now comes the 6th habit. Habit number 6, synergize. This is perhaps the most exciting habit because this is where magic happens. Synergy means the whole is greater than the sum of parts. 1 + 1 = 3 or even more. When people truly collaborate, combine their strengths, their perspectives, something gets created that nobody had individually thought of. This is creative cooperation, the highest form of teamwork. Synergy happens when you see differences not as threats, but as strengths. When you value that the other person thinks differently because they can give you new perspective, new ideas. Many people are uncomfortable with differences. They want everyone to think like them. But if everyone thinks the same, where will innovation come from? Where will growth come from? For synergy, you need an open mind, curiosity, and willingness to not be attached to your position. In synergistic communication, people genuinely listen, genuinely try to understand, and then together they explore, find third alternatives. Not my way, not your way, but a better way that we create together. This is a very exciting process because you don't know what the result will be, but you trust it'll be better than both individual ideas. And it usually is, if the process is right, if there's trust, if there's openness. An example is given in the book. A professor tells their class, "You're guaranteed a C grade, but if you want, you can take a risk. Try a synergistic approach, where you'll set your goals, design your curriculum, and I'll work with you as a partner. And if successful, you can get an A. But if not, you might get a D or even F." Some students want to play safe. They choose C. But some students take the risk and they create amazing results because they get ownership, space for creativity, and also the professor's guidance. This is synergy. Synergy isn't just in business or work. It can happen in families too, in relationships. When a family makes a decision together, takes everyone's input, the solution that comes is much better. And everyone feels ownership, commitment. Children also feel involved, valued, and then they follow on their own. No need to force. This is the power of synergy. But for this, you need all 7 habits. Be proactive, so you stay in your circle of influence. Begin with the end in mind, so there's shared vision. Put first things first, so there's execution. Think win-win, so there's mutual benefit mindset. Seek first to understand, so there's empathy. And then synergize happens naturally. Now, let me tell you about valuing differences. This is the key to synergy. Every person is unique. They have their own strengths, weaknesses, perspectives, experiences. And this diversity is an asset if you value it. If I have technical skills and you have people skills, we can combine and do something amazing. If I'm detail-oriented and you're a big picture thinker, we can create balance, complement each other. But what do most people do? They want everyone to be like them. And whoever's different, they tolerate them, best case, or criticize them, worst case. But the synergistic approach says, celebrate differences. Seek out different perspectives, because that's what will make you grow, challenge you, get you to better solutions. Now let me tell you about force field analysis. This is a tool that helps in synergy. Whenever there's a problem or a decision to make, you make 2 lists. One of driving forces that are positive, that support change, and second of restraining forces that are negative, that resist. And usually, what do people do? They try to increase driving forces, push more, but this also increases restraining forces. Resistance increases, and nothing happens. The synergistic approach says address the restraining forces. Understand why there's resistance. Address those concerns. And when restraining forces reduce, driving forces naturally work. Change happens, and it's sustainable because everyone's been brought along. Everyone's concerns have been addressed. This is a very powerful approach in problem solving, change management, conflict resolution, everywhere. So these were habits 4, 5, and 6. Think win-win, seek first to understand, synergize. And these 3 together give you public victory, interdependence, effective relationships. When you think win-win, there's mutual benefit mindset. When you first understand, trust and openness build. And when you synergize, creative cooperation happens and results come that weren't possible individually. This is the power of teamwork, the power of collaboration. And this is what builds great organizations, great families, great communities. Now comes the 7th and final habit. But this is the most important habit because it makes all other habits possible, sustainable. Habit number 7, sharpen the saw. This is a metaphor. Imagine you're in the forest and you see a man cutting down a tree with a saw, working very hard, sweating, tired, but progress is very slow. You ask him, "How long have you been cutting?" He says, 5 hours, and I'm exhausted. You say, "Why don't you stop for a bit and sharpen the saw?" He says, "I don't have time to sharpen the saw. I'm too busy sawing." This sounds absurd, but we all do this. In our lives, we're so busy with production, with results, that we don't renew our production capability, don't sharpen our tools, don't sharpen ourselves. And then after a while, we burn out, get exhausted, become ineffective. The sharpen the saw habit says regularly, systematically, renew yourself in 4 dimensions: physical, mental, spiritual, and social emotional. The first dimension is physical, your body, your health. And to renew this, you need 3 things: exercise, nutrition, and rest. Exercise doesn't just mean going to the gym. It means you move your body, stay active. Walking, running, yoga, swimming, anything that keeps you physically engaged. And this is good not just for your physical health, but also for mental health. Stress reduces, mood improves, energy increases. Nutrition means you eat well, eat healthy, avoid processed food, eat whole foods, vegetables, fruits, proteins. And rest means proper sleep, 7 to 8 hours every night. Because without proper rest, your body can't recover. These 3 things are quadrant 2 activities. Important, but not urgent. So many people ignore them. They say, "I don't have time to exercise, to cook healthy food, to get proper sleep. I'm too busy." But this is short-sighted thinking. Because if you neglect your health, long-term your productivity will drop, your energy will decrease, and you'll get sick. And then you'll be forced to rest. Better to proactively invest in your health, daily. And then you can work at a sustainable pace, long-term. The second dimension is mental, your mind, your intellectual capability. And the best way to renew this is reading, writing, learning, developing new skills. Reading expands your mind, gives new ideas, new perspectives. And this is also a quadrant 2 activity. Nobody's forcing you. You have to discipline yourself. But if you read regularly, your knowledge will grow, your thinking will improve, and you'll make better decisions. Writing is also a very powerful tool for mental renewal. When you write, you organize your thoughts, clarify them, and understand at a deeper level. Journaling is a good practice. Take some time every day to write about your experiences, your learnings, your goals. This increases self-awareness and gives mental clarity. And learning new skills. This is also very important because the world is changing. Technology is changing, and if you're not learning, you'll fall behind, become obsolete. So continuous learning is essential, lifelong learning. The third dimension is spiritual, and this isn't necessarily about religion. This is about your core values, your purpose, your connection with something greater than yourself. Ways to renew this are meditation, prayer, spending time in nature, listening to music, creating art, anything that makes you feel centered, peaceful, connected. This is also quadrant 2, and perhaps the most neglected dimension, because people consider it a luxury, but it's a necessity, because spiritual renewal gives you strength, resilience, and clarity. Meditation is a very powerful practice. Just 10-15 minutes daily. Just sit, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. Observe your thoughts. without judging. This calms you, reduces your stress, and increases your self-awareness. Spending time in nature is also very rejuvenating. Walk in the park, go to the mountains, go to the beach, and just observe nature. Experience it. This gives you perspective, reminds you that you're part of a bigger scheme. And the fourth dimension is social-emotional. Your relationships, your emotional health. The way to renew this is building meaningful connections, spending quality time with loved ones, and service, helping others. Investing in relationships is very important because humans are social beings. We need connection, belonging, and if our relationships are strong, we're happier, more fulfilled. But relationships are also quadrant 2. Don't seem urgent, so people keep postponing them. We'll talk tomorrow. We'll spend time on the weekend. But that time never comes, and slowly, relationships weaken. So consciously take out time for relationships. Quality time. Not just being in the same room, but genuinely connecting, talking, listening, doing activities together. And service is also very powerful. When you help others without any expectation, you get a lot of satisfaction, fulfillment, and this also puts your own problems in perspective. You realize many people are in more difficult situations than you, and you feel grateful and motivated. Now, these 4 dimensions are interconnected. If you're physically unwell, you'll be affected mentally too. Emotionally too, spiritually too, and vice versa. That's why balancing all dimensions is necessary. Investing in all is necessary. And this should be a daily practice. At least 1 hour every day. Invest in your renewal, in physical exercise, mental stimulation, spiritual connection, and relationship building. And this will make you sustainable, long-term effective. Now, the book talks about another important concept, the upward spiral. When you practice sharpen the saw, you enter an upward spiral. Learn, commit, do, then learn, and the cycle repeats. But with each cycle, you reach a higher level, more aware, more knowledgeable, more capable. This is continuous improvement. Kaizen. Japanese concept. Small improvements daily, consistently, and they compound over time, and you grow exponentially. But if you don't renew, there's a downward spiral. Your effectiveness decreases, your energy decreases, and you move toward burnout. And then you enter crisis mode, quadrant 1, where you're only doing urgent things and never get time for important things. This is a vicious cycle, and there's only one way out. Sharpen the saw. Forcefully take out time for quadrant 2 and renew. And slowly, you'll enter the upward spiral. Now let me tell you about scripting. This is a powerful concept. We're all scripted by our parents, society, experiences. Some scripts are helpful, some are limiting, and we unconsciously keep following those scripts. But when you become aware, you can rewrite your scripts, develop new habits, adopt new paradigms. And this is transformation. This is growth. And this is possible because humans have unique endowments: self-awareness, imagination, conscience, and independent will. These are 4 gifts that animals don't have. And because of these, we can override our programming, choose our destiny. Self-awareness means you can observe your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors. You can go to a meta level and see what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. Imagination means you can visualize the future, possibilities. You can create in your mind. Conscience means you have a moral compass inside that tells you what's right, what's wrong. And independent will means you can act according to your awareness, your imagination, your conscience, even if your feelings, your moods, or your conditions are saying something else. These 4 endowments give you power, freedom, and when you use them, you become proactive. You can rewrite your scripts. And this is a process. Doesn't happen overnight, takes time, effort, patience, but it's possible. And when you practice the 7 habits consistently, you replace your scripts with positive scripts, effective habits. And then your entire life trajectory changes. Now, let me talk about the inside-out approach again, because this is the soul of this entire book. Many self-help books teach personality ethic, quick fixes, techniques, tricks, how to impress others, manipulate them, influence them. But all this is superficial, temporary, and doesn't work long-term. Because if your character is weak, no technique can give you sustainable success. People will eventually see your reality, your authenticity, or lack of authenticity. Character ethics says first build your character, your principles, your integrity, and then everything outside will automatically start fixing itself. Your relationships will improve, your effectiveness will increase, and your success will be sustainable because it'll be based on solid foundation, on character, on values, on principles. And principles are timeless, universal. They work in every culture, every time period. Fairness, integrity, honesty, human dignity, service, quality, excellence. These are all principles. And when you live according to these principles, you naturally become effective. Now let me tell you about P-PC balance. This is also a very important concept. P means production, results, what you're achieving. And PC means production capability, your ability. And you need to balance both. Many people only focus on P, on results, and neglect PC. And short-term results come, but long-term capability decreases. And then results also start decreasing. This is unsustainable. The book gives Aesop's fable, The Goose and the Golden Egg. A farmer has a goose that lays 1 golden egg every day. The farmer is very happy, but then he gets greedy. He thinks, if I kill the goose, I'll get all the golden eggs at once. So he kills the goose. But there's nothing inside. And now he has neither the goose nor the golden eggs. This is the result of PPC imbalance. The goose was PC, production capability, and the eggs were P, production. And when the farmer destroyed PC, P also ended. This is what happens when people neglect their health, continuously overwork, without rest. Initially, productivity is high, but then the body breaks down. They get sick, and then productivity becomes 0. This happens in relationships, when you only want results from the other person, but don't invest in the relationship. Then, initially, they cooperate, but slowly, resentment builds, trust breaks, and then cooperation also stops. P/PC balance means you invest in both short-term results and long-term capability. Give equal importance to both. And this is what the sharpen the saw habit teaches. Now, let me tell you about organizational application. These 7 habits aren't just for individuals. They're for organizations too, for teams, for families. When an entire organization adopts these habits, culture transforms. Be proactive culture means people don't complain about problems. They bring solutions. Take ownership. Begin with the end in mind means the organization has a clear mission, vision, and everyone's working in that direction. Put first things first means priorities are clear and resources are allocated according to those priorities. Think win-win means there's no internal competition. There's collaboration, mutual benefit. Seek first to understand means communication is open. There's empathy, and conflicts get resolved constructively. Synergize means diversity is valued, and creative cooperation leads to innovation. And sharpen the saw means the organization is continuously learning, improving, and investing in people. Such organizations are highly effective, sustainable, and great places to work. Now, let me tell you about family application. These habits are also very powerful in families. When parents are proactive, they don't do reactive parenting, they do thoughtful parenting. When a family has a shared mission statement, shared values, there's unity, direction. When priorities are clear, time management is better. There's quality time. When there's win-win mindset, there's no comparison. There's cooperation. Every family member's unique strengths are celebrated. When there's empathic listening, children feel they're being heard, understood, and they open up. And when there's synergy, family decisions are made together and everyone has buy-in. And when there's sharpen the saw, the family does activities together, has fun, learns, grows. Such families are strong, happy, resilient. Now let me share some final thoughts. These 7 habits are an integrated whole, a system. You can't pick 1 or 2 habits and expect magic to happen. All 7 have to be practiced together, sequentially. First private victory, then public victory, then renewal. And this is a journey, not a destination. You'll never be perfect. There'll always be room for improvement. But when you practice consistently, you'll see your effectiveness is increasing. Your relationships are improving, and your life is becoming more meaningful. These habits are natural laws, principles, and you can't argue with principles. You can ignore them, but you'll have to face the consequences. You can't break them. You can only break yourself. But when you align with principles, life starts flowing, struggle reduces, and results come naturally. So this is an invitation to try these 7 habits. Implement them in your life and see what difference it makes. Start with one habit, master it, then the next, and slowly make all 7 part of your life. And remember, this isn't a quick fix. This is character development. It'll take time, effort, patience, but it's worth it because it'll give you what truly matters: effectiveness, meaningful relationships, and a life well lived. So go out and start. Be proactive. Focus on your circle of influence. Begin with the end in mind. Clarify your vision. Put first things first. Execute your priorities. Think win-win. Seek mutual benefit. Seek first to understand. Practice empathic listening. Synergize. Do creative cooperation. And sharpen the saw. Renew yourself daily, consistently, and then watch how your life transforms. All the best.